दरवाजा बंद कीजिए। गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय आराधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय हिरण्यो तद भक्ताय नमो नमः। ये क्या हरी है क्या? वंदे हम श्री गुरु श्री युतपदकमलं श्री गुरु वैष्णवंश्च श्री रूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादं सहगना ललिता श्री विशाखं। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोविदकांता राधा कांता नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama Eva Kevalam Pulam Nasteva Katyaranyata Madhuram Narudevyopi Mangalevyopi Mangalam Pavanam Pavanevyopi Hare Nameva Kevalam. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Rupa Goswami. So the eastern section, second wave, sadhana bhakti. So the last verse was the famous verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. Nigama kalpa taror galitam palam sukama kadambarita divasam badam bevada bhagatam rasamadayam muhora rasigabu bhavukaha. So the Srimad Bhagavatam is relished by the Bhavuk and Rasik Vaishnavas. So means those who are highly advanced. So the Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. So, of course, any person who is reading the Srimad Bhagavatam can get some benefit. And he may be able to slowly but surely advance. But unless and until one is highly advanced, so one will not feel so much transcendental pleasure. Just like chanting the holy names. So in the beginning stage one may chant the holy names, but there is not so much pleasure. And the example is given just like if a person is diseased, then he cannot feel the sweetness of a rasgulla, a rasmalai, if he has jaundice. So similarly, in the disease condition of this material existence, the conditioned soul, he cannot taste. The ras and Krishna Nam or in Krishna Katha. But gradually by chanting the holy names, then the consciousness is purified, the senses are purified, and then one will naturally taste. One will feel pleasure while hearing Krishna Katha, while chanting the holy names. So today's text is also a famous verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So Rupa Goswami has collected various verses from the different scriptures in his wonderful book, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So Bhakti is an ocean of nectar. Ras, that is transcendental mellow. Amrit is nectar. So Sindhu is ocean. So the verse is from the 12th canto, 13th chapter. Sarva Vedanta Saram Hi Sri Bhagavatam Vishyate Tad Rasamrita Triptasya Nanyatra Syadrati Kvachit. So Rasamrita is also in this verse. Srimad Bhagavatam is declared to be the essence of all Vedanta philosophy. One who has felt satisfaction from its nectarian mellow will never be attracted to any other literature. So the tree of Vedic knowledge. So the previous verse also was explained. Nigama kalpa taror kalitam palam. So the Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the tree of Vedic knowledge. So in this verse also it is explained. Sarva Vedanta. Saram. Saram means the essence. So the Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedic literatures. So the four Vedas, and then the essence of the four Vedas is Vedanta, Vedanta Sutra. And then the essence of that is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And so the Srimad Bhagavatam is in 12 cantos, and 10 subject matters are there. Sarga Visarga, the creation. First, the Lord is supplying the ingredients, the Supreme Lord, Sarga, and then Visarga, then Lord Brahma is in the assembling everything. So therefore is known as Ditya Srishtikata, is the secondary creator. The ultimate, the primary creator is Krishna. By his will it is manifested, this material world. But Lord Brahma also is empowered to put everything together. Sarga, Visarga, and so on. Then description about the different incarnations are there, Ishanukata, and then the impetus for work in this world for the living entities. And then description of the creation, the whole universe is there. The lower planets, the earthly planets, the higher planets, and so on. And the liberation is explained, and most important, the ashray, the shelter, the essence, that is the 10th canto. In the 10th canto, there is a description of Krishna and Krishna's pastimes in Braj, then in Mathura and Dwarka. So the 10th canto, the most important part is the first part, which is explaining about Krishna and Braj. And the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the first part also is, and the chapters dealing with the gopis, and specifically also Rasa Panchadhyaya. Description of the Ras Leela, Krishna dancing with the gopis. 5 chapters are there. That is the essence of the 10th chapter, of the 10th canto. And then before that, Venugita is there. description of the flute, or glorification of the flute, and the effect of when Krishna is playing the flute. And we think Rasa Panchadhyaya, the 5 chapters or 5 chapters in regards to Ras Leela, a Gopi Gita is there. So after the Rasa dance, or during the Rasa dance, Radharani is seeing that so many gopis are there. And so Radharani is thinking, I would like to dance with Krishna and only my gopis, not all these other gopis which were there. That is in Maharas. So first day of Kartik is actually the Ashwin Maas, the last day, but devotees, they take Sankalpa, the vow, to perform Kartik Vrat on that day. So that night, Maharas was there and millions of gopis were there. So 4 kinds of gopis are there. Of course, so many kinds of gopis, but 4 groups divided in 4. You know? Sapaksha, those in Radharani's group. And then Vipaksha, opposite party, headed by Chandravali. And then those who are friendly towards Radharani, Surit Paksha. And then those who are more friendly towards Chandravali, so then there's a neutral relationship there, Tatashta or neutral, the Tatashta. Not favorable and not against. So, of course, amongst all the gopis also there's this description of 5 kinds of gopis. And the Saki and the Prana Saki, Nitya Saki, Priya Saki and Parampreshta Sakis. So Parampreshta, the most dear friends of Radharani of the same age, Lalita Vishaka, Tungavidya, Induleka, Champakalata, Chitra, and Rangadevi and Sudevi, these are the Ashtasakis. The group leaders also, under Srimati Radharani, in Radharani's group, Yudheshwaris. And they all have 8, all the Ashtasakis. Under them they have 8 main Sakis and then 8 main Manjaris. And then others may be there also. So she wanted to dance with her Sakis only. And not only other gopis were there, like Vipaksha gopis, but some sadhakas who attained perfection, like the sages in Ram Lila, Dandakaranya forest, they wanted to become Sakis. And so they approached Ramchandra Bhagavan and they saw him because they saw, oh, he's beautiful, just like Krishna, the Rishtadev. But then Ramchandra Bhagavan said, no, I took a vow, Ekapatni Vrat, of only one wife. Marrying only one. So although as king, so he may have many wives also. But bygone ages. But just to set the example, so he only accepted Sita as his beloved wife. So he told the sages that if feelings are not to be fulfilled in this lifetime, but in my next incarnation, you'll be able to have my company. So they also then joined when Krishna appeared at the end of the Dwapar Yuga. Then they were able to have that wonderful relationship with Krishna. So some new gopis were there and they entered Ras Leela for the first time in Maharashtra. So therefore Radharani was not fully satisfied. And of course that is the pastime of the Lord, and therefore she left. And when she left, the Rasa Leela done, the Rasa dance stopped. And then Krishna also left. So then, so searching for her, and then he found her, but she wanted to be with her gopis, also not alone with Krishna. And so, therefore also she was somewhat transcendently proud, and Krishna left her also. And then all the gopis were searching for Krishna. So and then Gopi Gita is there. And gopis feeling separation from Krishna. Although, so some rivalry is there, so you may say transcendental envy, but when they were searching for Krishna, all the gopis, even Vipaksha gopis, like Chandravali, Padma, Bhadra, so when they saw Rani that she was dejected because Krishna left her, and they all felt compassion for her and for each other actually. And so then together with us, they were searching, and then the Gopi Gita verses are there, coming from the lotus mouth of the different gopis. So even in Venu Gita, different gopis are reciting some verses. Although they're simple cowherd girls, but they're most exalted, and beautiful verses emanated from their lotus mouth. And then after that, loving exchange is there between when they meet again. So that is known as Pranay Gita. And the Nugal Gita is there also. And then Krishna the gopis are there. So Pranay means that is an expression of love. Prem Snehaman Pranay. So and then later on when Krishna goes to Mathura, so then also the gopis are feeling separation, and when Bumblebee came, and so that is known as Brahma Gita, also important chapter. So anyhow, so the point is, as mentioned here, that so the Srimad Bhagavatam is the essence of all the Vedic literatures. And so the essence of the Bhagavatam is the 10th canto. And the essence of the 10th canto are the pastimes of Krishna and Braj. And the essence of the pastimes of Krishna and Braj are the pastimes with the gopis. And especially then also, so the Ras Leela is glorified. Sarva Manoram, most enchanting. So if one has heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, then that Rasamrita, one has tasted this transcendental mellow of the Srimad Bhagavatam, especially the 10th canto. Triptasya, tripta. So satisfaction is there by hearing Krishna Katha, Braj Katha. And then when one has obtained this satisfaction, then one will never be attracted to any other literature. And even usually devotees who are then absorbed in Braj Bhav. So, of course, still, they're also hearing about the other pastimes of the Lord, as mentioned in the Bhagavatam, Nrishingavatar, Vamanavatar, and so on, even Ramchandra Bhagavan. And they're very interesting, but the ras is not as much as in the 10th canto. So that is expressed here. So, Rupa Goswami is, of course, then also Jiva Goswami is expressing in the commentary in this regard, so that To indicate this, the word Bhavuka is explained as Rasa Vishesha Bhavana Chatura, those skillful at experiencing the most excellent ras. So also he has explained that the word Bhavuka means having a good taste as well as being auspicious. So those is skillful experiencing the most excellent ras. Ras Vishesh. So actually those on the platform of Bhav. So you know the stages? Shraddha, then Sadhu Sangha, then Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivritti, then Nishtha, Ruchi, then no, then Asakti, and then comes Bhav, and then Prem. So practically Bhavavastha is the liberated state. And usually from that stage, one will not fall down. So, of course, one always has to be careful if one is practicing bhakti, devotional service. And the external energy is very strong. And one has to guard against offenses. And one has to be careful because material energy is very strong. So the example then is given in the Bhagavatam also of Bharat Maharaj, son of Rishabdev, incarnation of the Lord. With 100 sons, the eldest was Bharat Maharaj. So he was advanced on the platform of Bhav. So he was the emperor, and he was ruling very nicely the kingdom. And at certain point, so one should become detached from this world, and also as a king. At a certain point, he should hand over to the sons or another qualified person, and then he should dedicate himself fully to devotional life. So he left his kingdom, he left his family, he left his valuable dresses and jewelry, and simply wearing the dress of a renunciant, he went to the forest to dedicate himself fully to the service of the Lord. So he was on the platform of Bhav, highly advanced. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Bindu, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained. So, a drop of nectar is there. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, so a drop of nectar of the transcendental ocean of love that is able to actually inundate our lives or even the whole world. So beautiful explanation of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu is there by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He has explained 3 kinds of Uttamavastha. So first Bhavavastha is there, and then so Murchit Kashai, Nirdu Kashai, and Bhagavat Siddhadeha Prapt. So Bhagavat Siddhadeha Prapt means the Uttam Vaishnav. So he has realized his Swarup fully and is engaged in the transcendental loving service. He can never fall down. And then the next, Madhyam Uttam Nirdu Kashai, is practically free from all. Kasai means kalmash, impurities. So he's free, and therefore he can also not fall down. But he's not completely situated fully in his Swarup. in Sarup Siddha Bhakti. And then Muchi Kasai, so some Kasai is still there, but it is actually very minimal, insignificant. But from that stage, if one is not careful, he may fall down. So that is what happened to Bharat Maharaj. He was on that platform, but he became attracted to a small deer, saving the deer. As his mother was chased by a tiger, and she jumped in the river, and then she gave birth to the baby deer, but then she lost her life. So Bharat Maharaj saved the small deer, took him out of the river and took care of him, but then he became attracted to the deer. Small deer, you have ever seen? Small deer in the real life, you have seen? No? No problem. But they're very cute, small deer. So, in the West you can see, many parks are there and you can see small deer. So they're very, very cute. Small animals usually are cute, small little dog or cat. So one has to be careful and not become attracted to these beautiful features. You have some small animal? Or
Yes.
which one?
Cats,
Cats.
dogs.
Dogs
Yes.
also. Small cats and dogs are there. How many? In your house? In your house?
No.
कैट है ना
एक था वो मर गया और अभी 3 आते हैं
3 आया है.
आते हैं like they
Oh, they're
don't
coming
stay.
and going.
Yeah.
The cats.
No, the dogs.
The dogs, acha.
they
Okay.
eat at her house
They come at your house. Okay, you're very merciful. Huh?
Her mother.
mother
The mother, okay,
She
the
says
mother.
she will donate all money to the cats.
Okay.
when we will enter her house like in the starting only there are many bowls and all
Acha, for the
always
animals.
kept
Okay. Okay, what to do? Age of Kali. But yeah, of course, nowadays in India, in the West also, they're keeping the dogs in the house and taking nice care of the dog. Get nice things to eat, and even sometimes they sleep on the bed of the master also. And Prabhupada used to say also, instead of worshipping God, G-O-D, they do the opposite, they worship dog. G-O-D, the opposite is D-O-G, dog. So, because the thing is actually by nature we have love for Krishna. That is the intrinsic nature of the jiva, to have love. But in conditioned state, instead of loving Krishna, the conditioned soul is loving some object of this world. So some love is there, but it is not pure love. The parents, especially the mother towards the child or husband and wife, or nowadays even without marriage, boy and girl staying together. So some love is there, but it is not pure. And then also, if they don't find love enough in the family, then they get a dog, an animal, and try to love the dog or the cats, to do some other animal. So, but one has to be careful. So Krishna should be in the center, and the love should be towards Krishna. Even family members are there, and but Krishna has to be in the center, and the love should go towards Krishna first of all. But then it is natural, if one has love for Krishna, one has love for everyone. But then one has to make some distinction also. Full love for Krishna, and then some love for the family members or others also, being passionate towards others. But, even we can give prasad to the dogs and the cats, no problem. But better not to keep them in the house. But if you see some tiger in the zoo, you don't try to be too much loving towards that. So we have to use our intelligence, and one has to be controlled and careful. So which is not so easy. And so in the family usually the mother has love naturally for the child, more than the husband, more than the father, because the child is coming from her womb and she's taking care naturally. So therefore the love is there, affection is there, and that is strong also. And that is all right. But it has to be there actually. Then the child will grow nicely. So, because the mother is taking nice care. But then Krishna has to be in the center also. And then more love actually has to go towards Krishna, ultimately. So the Bhavuk Vaishnav, they are expert in the loving service towards the Lord. So the transcendental mellows are there. So, and different moods are there, bhav, vyabhichari bhav, who are coming and going. So in loving exchange with Krishna. So they are expert in that. So that is also described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the first canto, 5th chapter. Navai janojattu katanchana vrajin mukunda sevya anyavata anga samsmritim smaran mukutangri upaguhanam punar vihatum itchen arasagraho janaha. My dear Vyas, so Narendra Modi is speaking, my dear Vyas, even though a devotee of Lord Krishna sometimes falls down somehow or other, he certainly does not undergo material existence like others, fruitive workers. Because a person who has once relished the taste of the lotus feet of the Lord, Rasagraha, can do nothing but remember that ecstasy again and again. Because Krishna is actually protecting his devotee. And the devotee, although he may fall down from his position like Bharat Maharaj, or other examples are there, one will still remember the relationship with Krishna, the loving exchange. So other examples are there, Bilva Mangal Thakur, but due to some weakness, due to previous impressions, or due to previous sinful activities, then sometimes so one may fall down from one's position, or due to the modes of material nature and being inattentive. So one has to be careful. But then, if one is advanced in spiritual understanding, so he will continue somehow, or he will remember the loving exchange. But for some time he may not be engaged fully. Like Bharat Maharaj, so he gave up his body, and because he was attached to a deer, he became a deer. But because of his devotional service, even in the body of a deer, he could remember his previous life, and so he was attracted to hearing the narrations of the Supreme Lord. So he stayed near the sadhus and hearing, even though in the form of a deer. And then after that, he gave up this body by the will of the Lord, and then he became Jarabhadat. He appeared in a Brahmana family, and so he remembered again also his previous lives. So therefore he acted in a way so that he would not be influenced by others. And he acted like a dumb person, although he was qualified. And so in a Brahmana family. But then his father was disappointed. But he was just internally then trying to be absorbed and staying away from materialistic persons. But then he attained also perfection. So, and we have seen that also. Sometimes devotees, they engage in devotional service, but then they leave the path of devotional service, but not fully. But then they may engage again in materialistic activities, but they will remember the bliss of the service of the Lord, the association of the devotees, the Mahaprasad. So one has to be careful that we can learn from this also. But here the point is that if one is attracted once, then he will never forget that satisfaction which he experienced. And we'll try to gain that again. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is explaining in the previous verse, previous to this one here, Nigama Kalpatra, Kalitam Phalam, and so on, of the Bhagavatam, the powers of the Bhagavatam to capture the Lord in the heart were described. In this verse, the sweetness of Bhagavatam is described. So in the previous one, actually, the second verse is there. So Bhagavatam's, the first 3 verses are there, which are very important. Give an introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam, the process of devotional service and pure devotional service. So, Nigama, so in the verse of the Bhagavatam, refers to the Vedas. The Veda is a desire tree because it naturally gives fruit in the form of various Purusharthas, human goals, Artha, Dharma, Kama and Moksha, which are desired by those who resort to it. However, because of its nature as a tree, being magnanimous, fulfilling everyone's desires, it also gives the fruit known as the Bhagavatam, since some people desire that. So the Vedic literatures are for all kinds of people, ultimately. And so therefore it is described as a desire tree. For example, in the Vedic literatures also you have different branches. So for those who are wanting to be happy in this material world and gain sense purification, for them Karma Kanda is there. For those who want to gain knowledge and even merge in impersonal Brahman, Jnana Kanda is there. And then also, of course, the highest is Upasana Kanda, in which devotional service is described. But then even so Varnashram is explained, and for example, what is important for the persons living in this world so they may live peacefully. For example, how to build a house. Vastu Shastra is there, where the kitchen should be there. So that is in Agni Kon, southeast, that is known as Agni Kon. So the kitchen should be there. And Isha Kon, that is northeast, where the deity should be there. So if one is following that, then one can be more peaceful. If the kitchen is the northeast and the deities are in the southeast, so that is then causing some kind of conflict there in the house, in the atmosphere. And so then those living there, they cannot be so peaceful. Unless one is fully engaged in devotional service, and because especially nowadays also, materialistic persons, they don't have so much knowledge, and then they're building these high-rise buildings, like here they're building 40-story, and then they just have one flat after the other. And so it may not be according to Vastu Shastra also. And sometimes one is obliged to stay somewhere, it is not perfect, but if Krishna is in the center, then one may be able to still be peaceful to some extent. And one may be able to advance. Because Krishna is transcendental, and if we engage in the transcendental loving service, then we can counteract also the difficulties, overcome the difficulties. But if possible, we should try to see that everything is according to scriptures, then we can be more peaceful. And then Ayurveda Shastra, if one has some cold, so some medicines are there. Of course, general knowledge is there also, which usually ladies in the house, they know by tradition. So if one has a cold, one should take ginger and one can take honey, some black pepper mixed together, or ginger and haldi tea, and so on. So it's good to have knowledge which we can get from the scriptures and from the sages, handed down by tradition. It's good to rely on the Vedic literatures rather than on, of course, on the modern scientists or modern education or medicine, allopathic medicine. Of course, sometimes we have to take that also. So we have to see time, place and circumstances. But as much as possible we abide by the Vedic literatures, by the Shastras, the scriptures. Then it will be easier to advance in spiritual life. And Jyoti Shastra is there, also giving some indication of a person's life and what difficulties may come and what kind of occupation one should do, what is favorable. So that you can see also from Jyoti Shastra, the astrologer, he can see. And so that can be helpful to some extent. But ultimately we have to depend always on Krishna and try to be surrendered to Krishna and serve Krishna. And then one can advance, and then one can be somewhat peaceful in this world. But ultimately we consult the scriptures in order to make advancement in spiritual life, in order to be able to revive our dormant love for Krishna. So we may do everything with some loving sentiments for Krishna, Priti Purvak, Bhakti Purvak, and then ultimately then love will manifest, pure love, prem. Bhagavatam also means that which belongs to Bhagavan as the proprietor. So Srimad Bhagavatam is no different from the Lord. So that is explained also. The comparison is given. The first two cantos are considered to be the lotus feet of the Lord, and so on. And the 10th canto, the lotus face. This implies that he alone gives the scriptures to his devotees, and thus persons other than them do not have rights to it. So by Krishna's mercy, through his incarnations like Vyasadeva, and through his devotees like the 6 Goswamis, we get these transcendental literatures. And then that will help us to become Krishna conscious. So like this Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, that will help us to advance in spiritual life. And today is the appearance day also of Gopabhata Goswami, also one of the 6 Goswamis, and he wrote some transcendental literatures also. He helped Jiva Goswami to write the Satsandarbhas, which are also important. And he helped Sanatana Goswami to write Hari Bhakti Vilas, and he wrote some small books also, like Sakriya Saradipika, how to perform the different samskars. The most important samskars, Sakriya, Sar, the essence of the different purificatory rites which we have to follow also, known as samskars. So these books are very helpful for us. They're needed for us so we can perform nicely our devotional service. And so we can advance slowly but surely, systematically, step by step. But so also as Mahaprabhu told, we should hear the Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavat, from the devotee who has realized. The devotee who has studied the Bhagavatam and realized the subject matter. So in other words, who is highly advanced. So in this association then we can learn and understand the Bhagavatam, the different devotional scriptures, and then we can advance. So again regarding this verse, Nigama Kalpa Galitam. Galitam means that it falls down of its own accord when ripened on the tree, not by force. Thus it is completely full of sweetness. Even after falling from a high position in the tree, it does not break, nor does it lose its sweetness. That is because it comes down from the highest position, from Narayan to the branch of Brahma, then to the lower branch of Narad, then to Vyas, and finally to the mouth of Shuka. So just like if you have a mango tree and the mango is there, the king of fruits, So sometimes, so as mentioned here, kalitam. So the ripened fruit, so you will fall down from the tree on its own. But then many times then, so as mentioned in here also, so it is indicated that the person, the proprietor is climbing up the tree and then is taking the fruits and handing down the fruits. So similarly, this knowledge is handed down. So in disciplic succession, from Brahma to Narada Muni to Vyasadeva, and so on to Shukadeva Goswami. Thus, without being injured, it is endowed with liquid sweetness like honey. The parrot Shuka has even made an opening in the fruit with his beak for bringing out the sweetness. So it is mentioned actually also that when the parrot is biting in the mango, the mango becomes more sweet. So similarly, so Bhagavatam itself is sweet because it is Krishna Sarup. But when the devotee is describing the Bhagavatam, then the sweetness is coming out. And we can see practically you may read the Bhagavatam and you may get some taste, but when the devotee is explaining the Bhagavatam, then especially the advanced devotee, then there's more sweetness there. Then more things are revealed, which otherwise one may not be able to see, to understand, by simply reading the Bhagavatam. Therefore Prabhupada gave the purports, and he himself was explaining. So Mahaprabhu told that we should hear the Bhagavatam from the person Bhagavat. Moreover, having been tasted by him, that fruit becomes even sweeter. Moreover, it remains unbroken, coming down step by step from the branch of Sutta and others. What is implied here is that without the Guru Parampara, one cannot drink Bhagavatam in its unbroken form just by trying to taste it through use of one's limited intelligence. So one has to hear the Bhagavatam in the association of the person Bhagavat, the realized devotee, and then one can get the full benefit. At the same time, so because the devotees may not always be there, one is in such a position one cannot hear every day. Of course, nowadays through internet one can practically hear every day. At the same time, also, if we have time, we can read ourselves also and get some benefit. Some benefit will be there. But then when we hear from the realized devotee, so also in a systematic way, then we can get more benefit. Because he has realized, and then he will give the realizations. And then one can more easily realize also. But then also we have to practice devotional service. So application has to be there. If we hear, then one has to apply in one's life, and then more realizations will come. From within the heart, Krishna will reveal so many things. Like Krishna spoke to Brahma, Chatushloki, the 4 essential verses of the Bhagavatam, the original verses. So Bhagavatam is eternal, is unlimited, but then it will manifest sometimes. So in the beginning 4 verses only. But then 18,000 verses through Vyasadeva and Sukadev. But in the planets of the demigods there, it is mentioned also. Bhagavatam version is there and there are 400,000 verses. Because they live longer, so they have more time to read and study. So there he is, also explained before the Chatushloki. Jnanam param guhyam me yad vijnanam samanvitam sarahasyam tadangashtam grihatam katitam maya. Krishna is telling Brahma, so I'm giving you this knowledge. Jnanam param guhyam me, which is most confidential. Savijnanam samanvitam. So within the knowledge, the realization is there. So we receive knowledge, and within the knowledge, the realization is there. So like we say that we are not this body, we are spirit soul. So we know now we are spirit soul, but then we have, so the realization is included, but there's a process how to realize. Sarahasyam tatangascha. So that is another secret. So anga, the limbs of devotion, the devotional service have to be performed. So one has to hear, then one has to serve the Lord, and then we may repeat what we have heard, and then the realization will be there. So if we simply hear but we not engage in devotional service, then the realization will come. It will not come. One will only have knowledge. But in order to realize, we have to be engaged in practical devotional service. So then we will get the mercy of the Lord by engaging in devotional service, and then we can have realizations. So in the beginning, it is important to be in the association of the devotees, advanced devotees, and hear from them, their realization. Then we can realize that also more easily. But then one has to also practically be engaged in devotional service. Because otherwise, even that, if we simply hear from a great soul, but then we are not engaged in devotional service, then also what is the use of that? Of hearing the realization that it is only knowledge. If we hear from the great devotees the realizations, that is nice. But then it is only in the beginning, this knowledge. So if you are not engaged in devotional service, it just remains knowledge, but the realization will not be there. Not profound, just theoretical understanding, which is not sufficient. But practical understanding, realization has to be there. So we may hear the Bhagavatam and Rasakatha, the 10th canto, but we have to be qualified also. So if one is fully engaged in devotional service, then he can appreciate. Then Rasamrita, then he can taste this transcendental mellow, the nectar of devotional service. So but one has to be engaged in devotional service constantly with body, mind and words. Then one may realize any question?
What does really practical devotional service mean? Because I hear it a lot.
Practical devotional
Yeah.
service. So that is sadhana bhakti in the beginning stage. So we hear about devotional service from the Spirit Master. We read so that we have to worship the deities, for example. So we offer to the Lord some foodstuffs. We do artik, and then we do puja. So we hear about this and then we engage in practical devotional service towards the deities. So that means with one's body, with one's senses, one is engaged in the devotional service. And of course the mind is to be engaged also. By trying to think about the Lord and how to serve the Lord, how to improve the service, the practical service. So that is then practical application. So we hear that we should serve the deities, we hear also how to serve, and then we practically do it. And then we use our intelligence, our mind, to improve the service also, to think how we can improve, how to do better. So that is the application of the knowledge, practical service with body, mind and words. As sadhakas, as practicing devotee. Practicing devotee is practicing with the body, with the senses, and then also engaging the mind in the intelligence. So if one is more advanced, then there's internal cultivation is there. So following the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj. So Rupa Goswami has explained, Seva sadhaka rupena sira rupena chatra hitat bhavalipsanakaya vraj lokana sarataha. So that is in the same nectar of devotion, so he's explaining. Actually, it was already discussed. Seva sadhaka rupena siddhu rupena chatra hitat bhavalipsanakari vrajlokana sarataha. Now we are sadhakas or sadhika, practicing with our body. And of course even with our consciousness, our mind and intelligence. But that is so external. Because ultimately we are not this body, we are spirit soul. And Krishna is also Chinmay, Chidvastu. So we have to come to the transcendental plane and then the real seva will be there. But first, seva sadhaka rupena. As sadhaka, we engage in devotional service, practical. And then more advanced, siddha rupena chatrahi. And we realize we are not this body. Maybe not fully, but to some extent. And then we remember Krishna and Krishna's associates in Braj. And we try to imbibe the mood of Maria Yashoda, of the friends of Krishna, or the gopis. So that is known as the spontaneous platform of Raganuga Bhakti, following the eternal associates of Krishna and Braj, Ragatmik Jan, who have deep love for Krishna. So that is the internal cultivation, which has to come ultimately, but not immediately. First one has to be fixed in sadhana bhakti. Chant 16 rounds every day. How many rounds today till now? 14, very good, increasing every day. And you're trying 16? Good, and you? 12. Okay, 12 every day, good, steady. So a devotee in Vrindavan, a small boy. I know him since more than 10 years. Neighbor's son. So maybe when he was 5 years old, because living opposite my house, our house, that he used to come and we used to give him prasad. Gopesh, his name. And so, and then he also had a beer bag and chanting. But not able to chant properly, but still. So every day I ask him, how many rounds? 12. Every day, 12, 12, 12, for many years. But we don't know exactly how he was chanting and how much he was chanting. But he was chanting something. But then chanting and walking here and there. He could not sit down for 5 minutes even. Just wandering here and there. But nice seva bhav, service attitude. He's still there in Vrindavan. Now he's chanting more than 16 rounds every day. And he's chanting nicely now. He's now 17 years old. So I know him since maybe 12 years. Now at least 16, many times he's chanting more. 18 or 20 rounds. Only 17 years old. Good boy. So, it's good seva bhav. So yeah, nice, we should be studying it. So every day 12, and after sometimes you chant 16, right? And then no less than 16. Every day 16, no matter what. So we have to have this determination, nishta. No matter what, I have to chant my 16 rounds. So, like Vrindavan now is very cold, 4-5 degrees at night time. During the day maybe 18, sometimes even less. Then it's difficult to get up when it's so cold, to leave the bed and take a shower, because it's not so much isolated. Even you may have a heater, but still it's cold. But still we have to chant every day. In the summer it's very hot, more hot than here. 47, 48 degrees in the shade. Of course now it's a little easier than before. Now there's a heat as you have in the winter. In the summer AC or cooler. But when I first came there, 1980, devotees had hardly anything in the temple. No heater, no AC. At that time there were no ACs. Some coolers were there, but not many. Then it's difficult, but still we're chanting every day. And then sick, if you're sick also, you should chant when you're sick. One time I had malaria. You had malaria also? No? Okay, good. We hope you remain healthy. But somehow I got malaria, and then you get high fever. It's coming and going, uncomfortable. So I was in Sankirtan in Jaipur, Rajasthan. So because we were not many devotees and everyone had to go out to distribute books and making life members, so they put me in the hospital. But still I was getting up in the morning 3:30. And then leaving the room of the hospital and just, and everyone was asleep, only Chokida was there chanting japa till I was getting fever, and then I had to lie down, of course. So no matter what, we should try to chant. So, of course, if one is going to school nowadays, board exams or college, sometimes there's a lot of pressure. And then it may be difficult to chant all the rounds, but at least one should chant as much as possible. But still, if one is practice, I know some boys or some girls, even when they had the exams, they were chanting 16 rounds. So it is a matter of practice. And the more they chant, then the more easy it becomes. So we should try to chant as much as possible. And try to chant as good as possible, and then when you do, you practice, then it will be easier. Then despite all difficulties, we should chant. Then we get the mercy of the Lord. So determination has to be there, enthusiasm has to be there, determination has to be there. And then, of course, we have to pray for the mercy of the Lord. Monica is there, Acha.
Gurudev, I feel that I'm much more concentrated when I read on my own self because
When you read your own self, yourself.
I'm more able to concentrate because I'm putting my in hearing. I don't know hearing.
The mind is going here and there sometimes.
Because what I hear, I forget. Something I remember, most thing I forget.
Yeah, therefore actually it's good to make notes. If you're studying or even if you're hearing, it's good to make notes. And then as you write, then that will make more impression in the consciousness. You'll be able to remember better if you're writing down. So you can read also on your own, no problem. Yeah. And you can get some realization also. But still, then it is recommended that we should hear from the devotees who are more advanced.
Like this hearing, I can, like going in the temple and hearing person to person, I can hear. But online hearing, I
online, that is true. No, in person it is much better than online. Yeah. Because online usually, the direct exchange is not there. But if you're there in person, it is easier than online. Even sometimes devotees, they hear and then they're doing something also. You can hear something, but then you're doing something else, then it is more difficult to concentrate. But still some benefit will be there also. But it is true, if you're directly hearing, that is better than online. That is true. Because the person is right there and he can see you. And when he sees you, then automatically so the exchange is there. So that is more beneficial. So online this is more difficult. Of course still you can learn something, but it is true, but that directly being there is much better. But nowadays, so we have to be practical, and if you can not go to the temple and directly hear, then we can hear online also and get some benefit. But if you can go directly, then there's more benefit, that is true. Anything else? Okay, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Ram, Ram Ram.